What's up, everybody? I'm Indy, and this is Indie Game Business, and that's Jay over there, and this is Indie Game Business.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year! How was Christmas? What'd you
do? I think we were still digging out of snow, and now it's like 50 degrees outside, and so it's just, you know, it's wonderful. Well, we didn't do a lot. I mean, we hung around. We didn't have to do a whole lot of travel. My 7-year-old got his first victory royale in duos on Fortnite. Very proud of him. You know, big gamer dad moment there. And then I played a shitload of Fallout 76.
That's what you're playing right now, Fallout 76.
Third character I've re-rolled. So yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna drop
that's my problem with RPG games, and why I end up spending thousands of hours in things like, you know, Pillars of Eternity and Fallout and Skyrim and all of these things, because I'm a re-rollaholic.
So you're like, this is not going the way I want.
Yes,
I want to experience this other thing. Well, you know what you should do? You should check out Bandersnatch on Netflix. Did you hear about that?
I saw that, and I think it's awesome, but I have never watched Black Mirror. I have no...
It doesn't matter. Every Black Mirror show is not directly related to another.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've heard it's fantastic.
Yeah,
but
and they're all individual stories with different people and everything. None of them are related at all. It just seems like they're in the same universe because they have kind of the same tech.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, John Hamm's in there, and there's some really good stuff.
I just discovered last night that Neil Patrick Harris is the guy on Lemony Snicket's whatever, the series of unfortunate events, and I was like, oh my god, I have to watch this now.
Oh my god, it's him. You know, Patrick Harris. When we went to Disneyland and they have like the light show with the lasers and the water, you know, Neil Patrick Harris was like the MC basically for that.
Oh, really?
That's
awesome.
My wife's not a big fan. I think he's cool. I mean, he's funny, you know.
You know, he went away for a long time, and then he came back, and I think we first saw him in one of the Harold and Kumar movies, and he was like doing lines of coke off a hooker, and it was absolutely not what you expect from the person that you remembered as Doogie Howser, and it was just absolutely hilarious. And then, of course, he did, you know, he was Barney, which was another fantastic character.
The womanizing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I loved that show.
He's like he's like Justin Timberlake, sort of, kind of.
Yes,
to do everything. He's very dynamic. And
did you know that he's the head, or was the head of the big the magic shop, like the world renowned magic group out of LA? I mean, the Magic Castle, maybe is what it is. I can't remember.
Castle.
But he's like
the castle. That's like a porn shop, isn't it?
Probably somewhere, but he's like he's a huge magician. I mean, he does a lot of, you know, sleight of hand and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty funny.
Wow. Well, that's interesting. There we go. That looks better. Neil Patrick Harris. All right, so what are we talking about today? We're talking about hype, press, negative hype.
Getting past the negative hype.
All right,
because it's a real thing.
Well, let's talk about some negative hype right now. Atlas.
Yeah. And so I had sent you a message because I knew you played, you know, tons and tons of Ark, when I saw an article that was like, Atlas players are outraged because, you know, they found out that Atlas was supposed to be just a paid DLC or a free DLC for Ark, and now it's its own game and there's nothing changed. It's just a palette swap. And I was like, is this legit? And you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Everybody's having fun.
No, I mean, I heard that before, but it's like, all right, so was a lot of outrage, and if you look, there's like only 31% positive reviews. If you look at it on Steam, it's like mostly negative, but also the past week it's been like one of the top 5 games viewed on Twitch. Right now it's number 11, and I've played it. I haven't stopped playing it. At first I kind of hated it, but you know what? I can see that I can see the perception of it's just Ark reskinned, because when I was watching it, I was like, this is just Ark. It's just Ark, and it, you know, it has many of the same features. It looks the same. You move around basically the same. But when I started playing it, I was like, holy crap, it's super hard at first. And it was buggy, but it's early access. Come on, you guys, they released it early access, and it's super fun. Some things are different. The way that you tame things are different. Some of the way you interact is different, but it's the same but better. And now it runs great. I mean, I'm getting 60 plus frames a second all over the place, and
it's only been like a couple of weeks since it actually came out.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, do you think that so early access, I mean, we know what it's intended to be. It's intended to be, you know, a beta form of a game. But do you think at this point that early access has, the assumption is that it's almost a finished game when it comes out?
I think people still think that, but it's early freaking access. I mean, you would think that people would know by now. When they say early access, it's going to be glitchy, it's going to be buggy. What early access means is that, hey, we've got this, like for this game example, I mean, this is like a bunch of servers put together. Each little section is a server, and when you go from one to the other, you're actually changing servers. That's how they can have so many people on at the same time in the same world. But you would think that people would know it's early access, so what they're doing is basically testing it. Oh, hi, IGDB, come. What's up, you guys? You would think that people would know that they're freaking testing the game. And that's what they're doing. They're testing it. They're getting all the bugs out with massive amounts of people.
So we had the very same thing come up when, and Fallout is still getting tons of bad press. But it's, yeah, it is getting, and that's it. And it's like, you know, I was reading all this stuff, and it was like, you know, the game is buggy as hell and it's unplayable, and I'm like, no, it's not. I've been playing it quite a bit. It's not in that bad of a condition. And you know, you see on Reddit and places like that where, you know, there's a lot of negativity around it, but it's mainly coming from people who haven't played the game. You know, I think obviously they do have issues, but I think more of those issues were on console than on PC, where I am, which is a little bit ironic. But, you know, if you just looked at the press coming out after that game, you would think that no one was playing it at all.
Same with Atlas.
Yeah. So how do you, as a developer, how do you get past that? How do you deal with that?
Well, sometimes you just get shit on and there's nothing you can do. Other times you can have a good game. Atlas is a good game. It's fun. The people that actually put more than, you know, I think the big problem with Atlas is that the first 10 hours you're like, what the hell? And it pisses you off because it's so freaking hard. But they adjusted a lot of that. But really, they've got all this bad press, but it's a good game and it's going to be better. And in 6 months, that game's going to kick ass. They just released a thing now where people can do mods for it, and they're showing airplanes and tanks and all kinds of cool stuff. But I mean, how do you combat it if you got negative press and your game sucks? There's the big question. Or people...
If you've got negative press and your game sucks, then you have issues with your game. I mean, that gets back to the, you know, what we always say, you have to make a good game first, and then, you know, everything else. But, you know, there's two ways that I see of looking at it. One is from the gamer side, from, you know, let's take the business part of it out for a second, but just look at it from, you know, our world as players. And you, on one hand, you can't read a review anymore and then make your own decisions. You have all these other tools with Twitch and YouTube and, you know, Mixer to go and actually watch somebody play the game, which I think is fantastic. You know, we don't have to rely on somebody saying, well, I think it's a blah, blah, blah. I give it a 64. Okay, well, maybe I give it a 94. It just depends on, you know, who the person is there. But, you know, at the same time, you know, while we can go and watch this stuff, you have to be careful in, you know, avoiding the clickbait. And I think that's what happens with a lot of this stuff is once, you know, everybody always likes being negative. I mean, it's just the reality of the internet. And so when one or two people, and it starts to get this little movement going about, oh my God, this game is so horrible. And then they start completely dissecting it for, you know, ridiculous reasons, it's easy to get caught up in that hype as a gamer and not want to play the game.
Oh, big time.
And not want to see what it's all about.
Big time. And then the worst thing a dev can do is feed into that shit. People say negative stuff and they respond to the negative stuff. I didn't see Atlas do that. Atlas just like ignored all the negative comments and just like, we're updating this and this and this and this. This is getting updated here. This is getting, and they didn't like respond or get involved in any conversations about that.
And so, I mean, like I said, Fallout's had other issues as well. Aside from the game, you know, they caught hell for the bags that they sent out, which was a really bad idea. But and then everybody's jumping on the fact that the rum cola bottle wasn't glass; it was plastic. That's aside. You know, I'm separating.
Let's shit on this some more. Yeah,
I'm separating those issues because those were just bad marketing, PR, business decisions that were made. But you know, looking at the games themselves, as a developer, a game isn't. You know, the days of launching a game and being done with it are far gone. I mean, ridiculously far gone. You can't overpromise and underdeliver, and that's what No Man's Sky did.
Oh God, overpromise. This is what it's going to be. This is what it's going to be. This is what it's going to be, and then it ended up being like a tenth of that.
Exactly. And so I think, you know, there's multiple reasons for that. You know, you've got developers get excited. I mean, 15 years ago, we worked with Peter Molyneux on Black and White. You know, we were doing some licensing stuff for them and some distribution way back when that game came out. And Peter is well known for getting excited about his projects and just over promising the living shit out of them. But you kind of have to take that in stride. You know, at the end of the day, you know, if he's involved in something, it's going to be a good game. But, you know, everyone does it. And then in the case of No Man's Sky, when you have a publisher like Sony that's constantly going, okay, you got to get this game out, you got to launch it. They're not, you know, tampering any, you know, they're not tampering, but dampening anything that the developers say. And everybody wants to create this great game, but there's realities of the world, you know, that you have to take into account. And sometimes it comes out and it is not what it's supposed to be. What they did is they didn't respond to it, you know, and in the short term, it hurt them badly because people were just getting more and more upset. I mean, that was the one that, if I remember correctly, didn't Steam like suspend sales of it or something like that? There was something bad happened.
Was it right around the time when they really started doing refunds? I don't remember. It was something. They did something.
I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was bad. But the team, you know, I can't imagine what they were going through personally. I mean, it's you put your heart and soul into these games, and when everybody comes out and tells you that your baby's ugly, nobody takes that very well. But, you know, they sat down, they didn't respond to the negativity, and they just worked on the game. And now it's a huge success, and they have really turned it around. And it's just simply through putting your head down, nose to the grind, and working on the issues that you know are issues with the game and improving it.
Div, Happy New Year.
Howdy, Div. But I mean, and that's the easiest way, or the most basic way, you know, to counter a lot of this stuff is you need to listen to your players. You need to take a look back at, you know, what did you say you were going to do versus what you actually did, and then go and continue to create new content, fix content, that sort of stuff. It's not a world anymore where, you know, you get a press release or you know, an interview in a magazine and it's over. This is the internet, and as our, you know, world has adapted to this 24-hour news cycle, you got to remember that what you said 6 months ago, somebody is going to dig up and throw back at your face. So if you promise this, then they're going to want it at some point. But that's how the No Man's Sky team did it. They just simply put their nose to the grind. They didn't respond to all the negativity, and they continued to update and work on the game.
But they had to have learned something from that, because that game had such huge hype. And now it may be successful, but it was like, this doesn't feel like that the hype carried on. Hype was there. There's no way they can recapture that unless they do something just crazy.
But this isn't new for our world. I mean, do you remember Daikatana?
I never played that.
Oh, no one did. That was part of the problem.
No one played it?
But when John Romero left id and started his new company, which he raised tons of money for, they were, based out of an old church in Dallas, or maybe that was the one where they had the sky rise. Anyway, they had burned through ridiculous amounts of money, and they had this whole marketing campaign because John was still big coming off Doom and Quake and all the stuff that he did at id. But, he had this whole marketing campaign where it said John Romero is going to make you his bitch. And that was like the tag for Daikatana. And it was hyped to be like the biggest thing ever. And then, it comes out and it was an abysmal game. I mean, it was just horrible. And so, this type of stuff has been happening for years. Back then, you couldn't say, okay, well, in 2 weeks, we're going to have an update with new content and we're going to fix the AI and, all the other issues that were going on in that game. But, it's a product of our passion. When the developers, the designers, even the business people, we get excited about what we make. And it's easy to get wrapped up in that and start over-promising. But that's where you've got to, you got to pace yourself. And if you do overpromise, you're going to have to live up to it at some point in time. That's just.
And also you're so inside your game that you can't see it, what an outsider or somebody else that's never played it is going to see. Sometimes I'll get a game that I'm streaming and you just can't figure out what to do, and the developer's like explaining in chat what to do. Well, if you got to do that, then your game is not. If you have to explain to the player what to do while they're playing, then it's not at any kind of a state that should be sent out. I mean, in no state that should be sent out.
And that comes down to playtesting and early access and things like that.
Play it that have never ever seen it or played it or whatever.
I mean, early access is a fantastic tool if you use it properly. And, the big part of that is communication. If there's one, I'm always going to default to say if there's one, non-traditional role at a development house you should have, it should be business. Well, I'm a little biased in that, but you absolutely have to have a good community manager. If you're going, because this is the person that's going to be your face of the company, and you need to have that level of communication to, be able to address things left and right. No Man's Sky, hunkered down and didn't respond to anything. And I think in their case, that was best because that one went at launch. It went so far south that no amount of talking about it was going to make it any better. Your best bet is to just shut up and work, but.
Well, along the lines of like John Romero's thing, John Romero's going to make you your bitch. You could also hype up an early access game as this is the glitchiest shit show you've ever seen. Bam, and explosions, and
we guarantee you crash the desktop.
See what you can do to crash your desktop. Can you blue screen of death?
Surely somebody's done that. This is the worst thing ever made.
Of it. Isn't that how Goat Simulator got popular? Maybe. So.
But it is. All right. And yeah, that's a good example. You know, they made that game as a straight up parody. I mean, it was.
And it was. I mean, it was awful, but it was fun.
It's this is where the business executive industry person conflicts with me, the dad and the gamer, because it's like my son and his friends come over, they're like, we want to play Goat Simulator, and I'm like, oh my god, why?
Because
what?
It's fun to just do
I don't
nothing.
get it. And it is. It's a blast. But you know what it is? It's Tony Hawk Pro Skater. That's what the game is. You know, it's, you know, do the grind and do the jump and do the combo and all that kind of good stuff. And if I start thinking about it like that, then yeah, but they'll come over and play it for hours. And that's part of, you know,
because it's fun to stick your tongue on a car.
Yeah, and whip it around. Yeah, it's just. But that's the, you know, that's the angle that they took. And, you know, in that case, it's really easy not to overpromise because you're not really promising anything anyway.
This is the biggest shit show you'll ever play.
Oh my god. So what else what other good examples do we have of this? Hold on. I have notes.
Yeah, what you have notes somewhere. Oh my. What
Yeah,
other
no.
game have you guys seen that's like gotten so much hype but just was a shit show? That's what we should have called this, the shit show. Friday shit show. See, we were talking about clickbaity things. Is your game a shit show? That would be a good clickbaity title.
Well, I mean, and it can be a shit show, but you just have to stick with it. So look at the Trichet brothers. They were on
Diablo
our
3
show
on
months
release.
ago,
Yeah.
and you know they're a client of ours now. Full disclosure, they've done 127 updates for Star Traders Frontiers since it launched in early access. Actually, it was rated. Steam gave it, you know, one of the 2018's best things to come out of early access. They get it. You know, we're going to put something out that's fairly basic, and then we're going to build on it. And we're going to see, they do a lot of analytics. They look and see what players are doing and what they aren't doing and what they like and what they don't like. And, you know, each update that comes out, yeah, it fixes bugs, but at the same time, you know, they add a whole lot of new content in it. And there's a whole pipeline ahead of it because, you know, that's the way that they built the game. And that's the way that's the way that, you know, they've gone and engaged, you know, their community. And it's built a good Discord community, a good, you know, on their forums and their wiki and all of this sort of stuff. There's a lot of good content, you know, there that their community has brought in, which just builds back into, you know, having that good community and community manager makes your life a whole lot easier, you know, day in and day out. Diablo, yeah, you're right, it was. Diablo 3 on release just wasn't that good. I agree. It really wasn't that much different than Diablo 2. You know, but then they went and started working on it, and you know, obviously Blizzard's got more resources than most indie teams do, but you know, they've got the Rift system in there, and then they slowly started putting out new characters and environments and things like that. But you know, they continued to work on it and they continued to build on it. I think that is one of the main reasons why Fortnite came from behind PUBG and surpassed it so quick, is because Epic was able to do literally weekly updates on the game and add new content and keep players interested. You know, it's not just let's fix something. Whenever you can come out and constantly say, hey, there's something new, then, you know, you've got a chance of bringing people back in.
Thank you so much for the follow there. What is the OCX pregame show? I don't know what that is.
It's the pregame show for OCX.
What's the OCX?
I have no idea. Hopefully they'll tell us.
I don't know if it's Ox or OSEX. Yeah, what is OCX pregame show? I'm super curious now. You've tickled my curiosity nose. I don't know.
So what else? All right. So what other games, can we look at? Let me pull up Steam. Another one of my favorites this year that did a fantastic job, going through early access and getting out of it was Subnautica.
Yeah.
That game, did a fantastic job of working through and using early access for what it's meant to be used for. Did RimWorld come out of early access? I don't remember.
I don't know. 7 Days to Die is probably still in early access. That thing's been in early access since 2013.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I mean, you look at how long Google had Gmail in beta. It was years. I think it might still be called beta. I'm not 100% sure. But as long as you are working on it, yes, it can be an excuse, but it gives you a reason to, set the bar with your fans. It's like we as the developers don't consider this game finished. And so, we're working through stuff, and, it just gets back to communication. You have to let your players know what's going on, what you're thinking, why you're doing this, and you got to be careful not to, just appeal to that vocal minority out there.
Mm-hmm.
Use your data, not, what the press is saying, and that's what irritates me about a lot of bad press about games. It's like, one of the things, I said Fallout, back on Fallout, about 2 weeks after it launched, all the press was, oh, it's not selling. No one's buying it. The only data point that they had for that was the, retail sales in the UK, because, we don't have, NPD has finally gotten access to some digital sales, not all. And, it used to be very easy. NPD it's very expensive. So, indie teams aren't going to have access to it in the first place. But, when our world was run by retail, we could very easily look and see, what games are doing well, what games aren't doing well, because we had benchmarks that went along with them based on similar genre title rating, that type of stuff. And we could say, okay, look, Diablo came out and it sold this many units. And so whatever this next action RPG coming out, it should sell, a percentage of that based on a bunch of factors that we plugged into a spreadsheet. You could do that because you had access to virtually all the data. Now you don't. I mean, Bethesda, Epic, these companies aren't even going through Steam anymore. All of their sales, it's all internalized. There's no public data on it. And so you don't know, you have to, and the developers know, and that's why they can look at their data and say, okay, we need to focus on this, we need to do that, that sort of stuff, versus, just following that hype, and as a gamer, you've got to sit back and go and critically look at articles or videos that you see and go, okay, is this guy just talking out of his ass, or is this based in real, information and real data, and go from there? Because you can't tell. It's not easy at all anymore to get a good inclination on how many units and how popular a game actually is. Did I lose you?
Yeah, I had to close the door because the dogs were barking. Open Community, OCX's Open Community X-Wing's a weekly podcast about the X-Wing miniature games. And he does miniature painting to lead into that. That's cool. IGDB says The Forest had a good early access too. The Forest is awesome. The Forest is an awesome game.
Yeah, Div still want me to play that one. Not going to do it.
Why not? You scared?
I don't watch horror movies. You know, everybody's making a big deal out of the Blindfold movie on Netflix, whatever that.
That's not even a horror movie.
What do you mean it's not a horror movie?
It's not a horror movie.
It's marketed like a horror movie.
It's totally not a horror movie. We watched it. It was a good movie. It's not a horror movie.
Anyway, I don't do horror.
You know what? It's not a horror movie. If you were like, it's not like Friday the 13th. There's no like killing or murders or. There kind of is like leading up to the story, but it's not like a normal horror movie. All right, it's not anything like it. It was really, really good.
I don't have a problem watching Friday the 13th. You know, it's just something that's just straight up, you know, violence. It's the psychological ones that I don't like watching. It's like I have enough stress in my life without getting stressed out about a movie.
It's a really, really good movie. I mean, and there's some really big actors in there. John Malkovich is in there.
Oh, I know. And he's like one of the reasons I'm like, maybe I should watch this because John Malkovich is in it. And I love John Malkovich.
Oh, yeah. And he's a great character. He has a great character. And then, what's her face? I can't remember her name. Divinorum, what is he saying? Proud to say that I annoyed the Tricet brothers enough to make them not an Iron Man only game. That said, I still want more saves. You hear that, please, Jay?
I never
asking for VR to play it. Yeah, with the negative hype around Fallout 76, I feel it mostly a pretty good game, but the way the market and other department really messed up, causing it negative hype.
Yeah, that's where their whole issue with the canvas bags. It ended up being plastic or nylon or whatever. And then it comes out that they sent streamers real nice canvas bags, but not the people that paid for the $120 version. And here's my next tip. Stop buying the $120 versions of these games. All right, so Div, I never use saves in Star Trek. No matter what difficulty I'm playing on, when my captain dies, he dies. That's it. I don't use save games in that. I probably should. I'd probably get a lot further into it.
You're also the guy that what we were just talking about earlier. What do you do in Fallout?
Oh, re-roll the shit out of everything. Listen, we will neither confirm nor deny that my ADHD has, like, you know, a profound effect on when I lose interest in a character that I've created. Because that usually is it. It's like, they died. Oh, well, let's do another one. Let's go again. But, you know, that's why I love sandbox games and roguelike games. That's just the kinds of games I like playing. That's very rare that I'll sit down and go all the way through a story-based game because I typically get, you know, sidetracked halfway along the way.
I end up just ending the game and moving on to something else. I played Fallout for a little bit, but I moved on.
So, as a gamer, make intelligent decisions that don't fall into, you know, clickbait and hype and, you know, all of this sort of good stuff. And as a developer, you need to understand that you have to look at your data, not just your players, and plan from the get-go on ongoing contents and updates. And, you know, if things have gone so bad and are so toxic that you can't even have a relationship with your fans anymore, then okay, that's fine. Take a step back, but just keep doing the updates and quietly improving the game. And, you know, it is going to pan out.
So,
yeah. So how do you approach indie games with literally no reviews? The Nintendo Switch is a good example of this.
You mean that's where to buy them? How do you approach them to buy them?
That's where that's where Twitch and YouTube come in.
Yeah.
You have to watch it. So one of the good things about the Switch right now, and I guess it's a good thing, bad thing, there's not a ton of completely original indie games out there on it. I haven't seen a lot of developers go, we're making this indie game and we're launching it just on the Switch. That's going to come. You know, right now, the majority of the stuff on Switch is ports from PC or console or other consoles. So, I don't read reviews. I read user reviews, but I also run it through the filter of, okay, does this make sense? And I'll give you an example. I'm looking at Atlas right now, and I haven't played it, but it says overall user reviews, mostly negative, 17,000 reviews. That is a red flag, because if that many people have jumped on something that quick, one, I forget what I think it's, there's actually a algorithm, and somebody, we were talking about it on a earlier show about, Vedran was talking about being able to, predict the number of sales based on the number of views, because there is a correlation to it. But if that many people have left reviews, that means there's a lot of people playing it. And, if there are that many people playing it and continuing to play it, it's probably not that bad. And when I see that volume of reviews that are negative, the first thing that comes to mind is, okay, this is, review bombing. This isn't accurate in terms of what the game actually has. So that's when, you take that and you go look at Twitch. And what'd you say? Right now, it's like the 11th most streamed game on Twitch.
It's the top 11th game right now.
From a business point of view, the things that publishers and, the core team at the developer, should be looking at, that is a very, very important stat.
All right.
If you have that many people streaming the game, then you're doing something right, regardless of what the review may say. Now, if you have a bunch of, user reviews that are ridiculously horrible across the board for varying reasons, that's different. But when those reviews are bad because this looks like, they didn't do XYZ with it, or I'm not playing this game because it doesn't, fit with my social beliefs or moral beliefs or whatever, which we see a lot of, in the industry as well. Those aren't accurate reviews. Those are just review bombs. And we've seen time and time again on Steam where, yes, a review bomb will have a negative effect on sales, but it's for a very, very short period of time. The games bounce back up and they go, on and continue to do well.
And you know what was it? What Gary says, Atlas turns out to be basically an asset flip for Ark. There's even a hidden menu saying Ark DLC. And it's obvious that it is that, because the menus are the same. There's so many things that are the same, but you know what? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. You know why? Because so many people like Ark, and it's a better version of Ark. I mean, there's so many things on it that are better than Ark. Like, for example, in Ark, if you're on a boat and you fall asleep, you just get shot off the boat. Or the physics, like when you're in a boat moving and you jump up, you just go zoom and fall right off the back of the boat. It doesn't do that in Atlas. There's a lot of things that, like the taming, I'm not a big tamer anyways, but the taming is, a lot of people are not such a fan because the taming is whatever, but I bet you they will tweak that. They tweak a lot of things that have happened. They've tweaked, like the ghost ships that happen, and there's whales and there's all kinds of stuff, and nobody cares. You know why? Because people are like, I like Ark, so this is awesome.
See, yeah, and that's the reason. As I was following Fallout on Reddit, the Fallout community on Reddit is a very passionate crowd. But basically it boils down to, if it's not Fallout New Vegas, then people are quick to jump all over it and point out that it's not as good as Fallout New Vegas. And it's fair enough. Obsidian did that, and Obsidian does remarkably fantastic games. And so, yeah, it's not going to be that's just reality. Deal with it. Then everybody starts getting negative on it because it's going to be multiplayer. And then, you have people that said, I'm sick of Fallout. I'm sick of the subreddit. I'm going to jump over and we're going to create the Fallout 76 subreddit. And then that degenerated into, people hating on every single thing. And then a third subreddit pops out called Fallout 76 Filthy Casuals. And that's the one that, I follow more than anything else, because it's people who are just like, it may not be the game for everybody, but I'm enjoying it. And this is what I'm enjoying about it. And that's the, the same way. I don't like looking at something the size of an entire new game and calling it an asset flip. Mortal Kombat, Scorpion to Sub-Zero is an asset flip. That's a palette swap, that sort of thing. If the game has completely new systems in it, it's not an asset flip. And maybe it was, meant to be free DLC, but you know what?
Or maybe it was paid DLC.
Yeah, but it's not, and that's it. And at the end of the day, make a decision. Don't buy it. But we're not going to see that because, the internet is the internet. And people have to be angry about something.
And honestly, people should have known from the very beginning, because the if you look at what Ark is called, it's called shooter game, and that's because when you are first making a game, you have to name it whatever. So they just called it shooter game. But once you get further into making a game, it becomes harder to change what it's called, what the EXE is called, because there's so much that goes into it. So you'll see a lot of games that like the EXE is called something just ridiculous. So Atlas's EXE is shooter game. And that they would have learned from before not to call a game shooter game in the beginning. So it's obviously they took Ark and did a bunch of stuff to it. And they did. And there is a lot of mechanics that are the same, but there's a lot that's different, and there's a lot that's better, for sure. A lot that's better.
Every game gets to a certain point where it's been out so long, you have to do version 2.0. You can't just keep adding onto it unless you're World of Warcraft. In that case, 14 years or something like that, and the game's still going along.
Yeah.
But if there is going to be a big jump in content or in systems or in graphics, I don't have a single problem with you going out and creating. It may be based on the same engine. A lot of the same stuff may be the same in it. A lot of the same character models may be the same in it. But, if you've gone and added a whole lot of new systems and you make it worth that $30 or $40 or whatever it is, then, there's not a problem with it. At the end of the day, we have to make money, or we're not going to be able to make games. That's just the reality of the business side of it. We are all passionate and we do love what we do, but you also have to make money so you can keep doing it.
Yeah. There's a lot in Into the Breach as far as the UI goes that's the same as FTL, and you loved it. When I first loaded up Into the Breach, it felt familiar, and that actually lent to the excitement. That's kind of the way I felt about Atlas. I'm like, oh, this is not going to be that hard of a learning curve. I mean, admittedly, I play on role-playing servers anyway, so it's different for me, but than someone jumping into the PvP servers. But I never played
Into the Breach is on my it's on my short list because I loved FTL. Again, it lets me re-roll something every time I die. I haven't played Into the Breach yet though, but that's on my short list of games I want to catch up on too.
The first thing it says is from the makers of FTL.
Yeah, and there is something to be said about keeping it familiar. I mean, for better or for worse, that's what they did with the first movie in the new Star Wars trilogy. I mean, it basically was Star Wars again with different characters and a different looking Death Star. But there's an aspect of keeping that familiarity in order to bring your fans in and then be able to build on it.
What was another game? Oh, I know one that got hyped. Dragon Age Origins.
I never played any of those.
Dragon Age Origin. I was at E3, I guess, but that was hyped E3, and there's going to be demos at E3, and the demo just looks so freaking fantastic, and you're like, yes, and then you play the game, and you're like, oh. At least that's the way it was for me. I didn't like it, but it looks so good. You play it, and you're, oh. That's what happened to me.
I think I was still playing a lot of the Baldur's Gate games, and Dragon Age came out, and I'm like, I don't want to learn a whole new world.
Promotion when they gave you FTL for free. I wonder if I even have. I'm pretty sure I've got FTL. I was never big on the. I'm just never big on the. Yeah, I have it. Never big on those type of games.
I played it primarily on my iPad
FTL?
Because it's one of those games that I could just like sit down and while watching TV and play and not have to worry too much about. And that's why I love the Switch. The Switch has become the mobile gaming device that I wanted
10 years
iPads to be. So we're not completely overchunked in free to play games. So, but that's the stuff I like, to be able to carry around and just play on the go, so to speak.
Some bits. Thank you for the bits.
Thank you.
Biddies.
So what other examples do we have here? And I had a profound thought a second ago, and I completely, just lost it. But we're seeing more and more of these games that they may not come out of the box, come out of the gate, and do fantastic. But, if the team doesn't give up on it and continues to put some good effort into it, they continue to grow and they continue to be popular.
Biggest disappointment, overhyped. Oh, I'm looking at a straw poll this is for last year. Fallout 76, Scum. Scum was hyped up big time.
Yeah, then you didn't hear anything about it.
World of Warcraft Battle for Azeroth is the third. Wild West Online, I don't even know what that is. SOS was really hyped up. SOS had the stream where Snoop Dogg was sitting there. It was like he was playing the game, right? Did you see that stream at all?
I read about it. I didn't see it, but he wasn't actually playing
it.
He
was just sitting there, but he was like acting like he was playing the game. But then when he's got a drink in one hand and he's got a big old blunt in the other, and the character's moving around, then it became obvious that he wasn't playing the game. He was just talking through the mic in game.
All right, so here's the difference between, if we're rating mostly negative reviews. SOS has a mostly negative rating on Steam with 13 reviews. And then you've got Atlas, which has a mostly negative rating with 17,000 reviews.
Yeah. Jeez.
Does Steam require you to own the game before you can play it? I mean, before you can review it?
I don't know. I believe so. How about this one? What about The Culling? Do you remember The Culling?
No.
The Culling was awesome. You were on an island, you had nothing. You like pick up rocks and then you mash them together and they become a gun or a knife, And it was a battle royale game. It was
I remember this. Yes.
3 or 4 battle royale games, and it was awesome. Everyone was playing it. Everybody was playing it all the time. And then I don't know, something happened, and it's like the player base just went. And the last time I logged in, The Culling was exactly the other way around. It was an awesome game, and them devs shitted in it. Yeah, the devs fucked it up. I don't know what they did exactly.
What did they do? Did they make it? How did they make it worse?
I don't know. They just did. I stopped playing it because I was playing other things, but they made it unlikable and
see, that's the death knell.
Oh, they changed the game mechanics. Online game. Yeah, they completely changed the game mechanics. Bad mistake, because that game was super popular. It was always in the top 5 on Twitch.
Oh, Gary says you don't need to own the game on Steam, but your review says, if you own the game or not.
Yeah,
I don't think you'll be able to leave a review if you don't own the game.
Yeah.
Now, granted, that's going to, make people mad if they bought it on Amazon or GOG or somewhere else and they can't leave a review on Steam, but leave a review somewhere else. Yeah, exactly.
Then they tried to undo it and it was way too late. Yeah, it was already done. It was done.
Yeah, once you lose, I mean, that's a standard business. That's just not just games. That's any kind of business. The amount of effort it takes to regain a lost customer is exponential versus, going and just basically finding new customers.
Oh man, and they tried. They had like weekly events and then the weekly event, I remember I was invited to one of them and there was like 9 people on all of the servers.
Yeah, you can't have.
This game was, it was so good. If they could just roll the game back to when it was first released.
Well, that's what happened with Cliff Bleszinski's game too. It came out even in early access and Lawbreakers, and no one was playing it, and it, it didn't review well. And then they tried to do the free to play game based in the 80s. I can't remember what they called that. And they just couldn't get any traction with players. And that's one of the big that's a risk you run when you create a multiplayer
Talk
game.
about a fucking rock star dev too.
Yeah.
Cliff Bleszinski, he did all the PR, he did all of the face, the interviews. He was like a rock star. He was the dev. He was like the Duran Duran. Cliff Bleszinski was the Duran Duran to John Romero's The Beatles. Okay.
Oh my god.
The Beatles were like the biggest thing ever, and then Duran Duran came out, and they were like the Fab Five for years. They were just like huge. People were
there really that much crossover between the Beatles and Duran Duran?
Did we
have like a 10 or 15 year gap in there?
Oh, there was, but it was like Duran Duran was like the next Beatles. But that didn't happen because the only song you ever hear once every year and a half is "Hungry Like a Wolf." But with the Beatles, you hear Beatles stuff all the time. Oh, there's also a box to tick if you got the game as a gift, which people are supposed to do. So,
Shouldn't Steam be able to automate that?
Yeah.
They know whether you got the game as a gift or not. If it was gifted to you, you got it as a gift.
You got it as a gift. Or, if you didn't pay for the Steam key.
Yeah.
Or, you just...
Well, I guess that's a good point. Because you still would have to. I don't know. Anyway, I don't.
But what if you buy a Steam key somewhere else? Like if you.
Then why are you putting? Well, then you didn't buy it on Steam.
I know, but
you don't need to be posting it on Steam.
Yeah, keys can be bought off Steam.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But still, that's fine. But I don't know. Anyway, that was one of the things that the Epic launcher, Epic caught some grief for. It's like, well, there's no reviews or any community on that. I don't think that's a bad thing for them. You look at how negative the Steam systems can be, and then I saw that it was like, Epic having these games and giving them away for free was causing a lot of issues because everybody was going to Steam for tech support, and I'm not gonna lie, I chuckled when I saw that.
Look at Epic Games Store and our partners team up to give you a free game every 2 weeks.
Yeah, they did Subnautica and Super Meat Boy when it first came out. Super Meat Boy is still actually free. I just pulled up the and Subnautica's free. And I'm telling you,
it's not now, but Rebel Galaxy Outlaw, what's that? No, it's not. It's 25
21
bucks.
days ago. Oh, they need to update their news feed.
Dogfighting, trade, and adventure in the Dodge sector. Nice. That looks awesome. I wonder if that's an older or new game. I never even heard of that game.
So, what have you played around on the Epic Store?
Nope.
Much?
Not at all. This is my first time even going to the page right now.
So, one of the things that's interesting, and Epic can afford to do this, literally afford to do this right now, is they're paying for content. And that's something Steam never does, ever. Very few of the retail, the digital stores now, do that. But you look and you see the final season of The Walking Dead is coming to Epic's store. It's not going to be anywhere else. There are games that are being basically funded, to come out exclusively on their platform, which is what's going to give them, more and more and more and more users. But I think that's another way that, that's an interesting thing that they're doing that's going to help them stay relevant. Because, the big question now is, yes, people are disrupting Steam, with Discord's game store and now Epic's game store, but is it going to last? And that's always the catch.
I don't even really hear anything about Discord Game Store anymore. I mean, I see it on Discord when oh, here we go. Ego Ant says another big example was Starforge. I knew those guys, great guys with Big Edition. It got promoted by Notch at the height of Minecraft's popularity, and it sunk their game.
And that's what, all right, so when we had George on, and George was talking about getting a feature on the iOS store before your game was actually ready for it was just like a death sentence. And, that's the same type of thing. If your game has been polished and it's ready to be promoted at that level, then yeah, having Notch, throw his support behind it is a huge thing. But if your game isn't ready for it, then you're basically going to get hammered with a bunch of people who hate your game, and they tell everybody they hate your game, and it's not going to work out well for you.
How to make your game fail before it's even begun is get somebody huge to promote your game before it's done.
Yeah, really.
Bam, and then it's failed. Get massive amounts of promotion
without being ready for massive amounts of promotion.
They weren't ready for thousands of critical eyes scrambling to put up a Kickstarter. Now there's just so many games released, I just don't even know anymore.
Well, it's the discoverability issue.
Yeah,
and that's where Discord and Epic have an advantage right now. There are people actually curating these things and deciding what goes up and what doesn't go up. And Nintendo is doing the very same thing with the Switch.
Yeah.
You have to, even if you have a wildly successful game on another platform and you want to bring it to Switch, you still have to go through the process of, getting them to approve it. It's not like you can just go and say, I'm going to, launch my game on PS4 and Xbox One, and you create the account and you sign the paperwork and you upload it and you do all this stuff. Every game that's coming out for the Switch has been looked at by somebody over at Nintendo.
Where's my wish list at? Is that under community? Library?
What's your Steam one?
Wish list, yeah.
I think it's under library.
Move this. Remove that.
I always know it's time to clean up my wish list when one of the sales starts and I get an email that says 24 games on your wish list are for sale.
Yeah.
Or on sale. And I'm like, maybe I have too many games on my wish list.
One, maybe 24 too many games.
I'm just sitting here looking through some of the other stuff that's on there to see some more good examples of, Elder Scrolls Online was a mess when it first came out.
Yeah.
And, they stuck with it, obviously. And it's I don't know, a year, I think in 2017, they had 8.5 million players. And that's amazing, for a game that got so panned.
Do you remember that game, Evolve? It was one of the first asymmetrical, and it blew up there, and then it just kind of went, it's like really, really super quick. Yep. Or the game Knack. Yes, the game Knack.
I don't remember
the game Knack?
No. I don't remember that game.
It was on PlayStation 4. It was an adventure game. I remember that thing got hyped. But it just kind of petered out.
So here's one of my rules as a gamer for avoiding games that might be overhyped. You never ever buy a game that is being released in the second half of a month that is the end of the quarter. So
that's way
the second
too
half
much stuff to think about.
No. The second half of March, you don't buy a game. Second half of June, you don't buy the game. Second half of September, you don't buy a game. And anything that comes out like a week before Christmas, don't buy it. Because 9 times out of 10, it's been pushed out the door to hit a revenue target.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's a publisher issue, not necessarily a developer issue. So what else have we got? Does anyone else know any really good games that got, or really hyped games that got absolutely killed? I mean, the takeaways are, for a developer, pay attention to your data. I mean, listen to your users, but don't focus solely on that. You got to look and see, what's actually being done in game. Have a community manager. Keep your fans up to date on what's going on and what's coming out, and because that'll kill a lot of the negativity. Because I mean, everybody always knee jerks to, oh well, they've abandoned the game. It's like they didn't abandon the game 2 weeks after it came out. That doesn't happen anymore unless the company just flat out goes out of business. Have your community manager, have a good community manager, and keep everything. Keep your players up to date on what's going on, and continue on. Keep doing updates. Have a plan. When you first start developing the game for content upgrades after launch.
BF5. Yeah, but a lot of people play that. A lot of people are playing BF5. Oh, what do we got for guests coming up? We got some guests next week.
Yes. So we've got a good friend of mine and the man who taught me everything I know about the industry. Lloyd Melnick's going to be on. He has, I've worked with him for 10 years, and then he was at Zynga, and he's been over at Stars. He's going to be talking about the hyper casual momentum of those games. Like 60% of the games, or the successful games on the App Store now, are all hyper casual games, which is very interesting. It's like, if you aren't familiar with hyper casual, WarioWare was a collection of hyper casual games. It's that type of gameplay. So he's going to be on talking about that. We've got Naughty, who is on the team, one of the co-founders of, and I completely forgot the name of the company, but they did Cultist Simulator. She's going to be talking about merchandise, how you do merch sales for your game, which I think is going to be extremely interesting.
Yeah, that'll be a cool one. We're going to work more on the Indie Army stream team, which is, if you are a developer and you stream solely game development or coding or programming or art or something like that, we are working on, we have a team, and we're working on putting devs on that. But it's going slow.
There's a lot of things that we're working on in the backside, but you and I have real jobs, and that tends to, jump in the meantime. Talking to some folks from Indie Mega Booth about coming on and not only talking about what they do, but also giving some best practices to developers on what to do when you're going and showing your game at any conference. There's a lot of good stuff we've got coming up. The last couple of months have been just crazy on the real world side, but we're still working on getting a podcast version of the show live, so you don't need to necessarily be tuned into Twitch, but we've got YouTube.
But we want you to tune into Twitch.
Yes, exactly. Oh, wow. Hold on a second. Game On says, there was a game called Laser League, which looked great and I thought would be a success. It had the hype and all. To my surprise, it kind of fell flat. Multiplayer was the thing for the game, but after the release was evident there just weren't enough players in the game, and so the game was kind of dead. I think they made some marketing schemes since, but I haven't played the game for a bit. I hope the game gained more players, but it does seem to be a solid game. It just didn't have the player pool, and that's what we're talking about. If you are going out and creating a multiplayer only game, yes, there's a big upside to it, but there's a lot of risk in that too, because if you don't get those players, it's a cascading effect. New players aren't going to stick around because there's nobody to play, and then the next wave of new players comes in and there's nobody to play, and it's just one of those things that can absolutely pile on itself. I mean, I don't recommend indie teams to do multiplayer only games out of the box, because it is a dangerous out of the box situation. Basically, I mean, you're putting yourself behind the 8 ball. I mean, it's a lot of risk involved in that.
Behind the 8 ball, in front of a pocket. All right, so we will see you next Wednesday.
We'll be back Wednesday.
And we'll get back on the road, get back rolling again.
And
I've got several months supply of GG Sups or whatever it's called. GG Fuel.
Is that the G Fuel, the gamer energy drink?
Yeah, that stuff jacks you up. I had such a hard time going to sleep last night. It jacks you up big time.
Mix it with vodka.
Oh, that's a good idea. I got some rum. I'm doing my subathon thing today, so on my channel every Friday I'm doing a subathon, so maybe I'll be drinking during then.
So what time does that start tonight, so we can get in and harass you?
Oh, I was thinking about starting about a noonish, so in just a couple of hours. But
I was going to say, wait, that was an hour ago, Andy. That's my
it was
world.
an hour ago. Yeah. I've got a meeting at 11, which is in 45 minutes, and then I was thinking about starting just after that, and then. So, can I say what it is? Subathon?
Yeah.
All right. So Subathon is I have a little timer on the screen. Like I've set goals this year for my stream, which we need to talk about setting some goals for this one. But so I have goals, and one of the goals is to increase my sub count and open up a new emote slot. So what I'm doing is I'm streaming a certain amount of time, but I have a little timer, and then every time somebody donates or subs or cheers in there, it increases the amount of time that I have to stream. So the last time I did it, I started at, I don't know, noon or 11 in the morning, and I ended up streaming till midnight or something.
Wow.
So yeah, and then I've got some games to give away. I'm going to give away Atlas. I've got some Escape from Tarkov. I've got like the $80 keys to give away, and I'm going to set a big goal. If we hit this big goal, I'm going to give away a Blue Yeti microphone. But it should be fun. It was fun last weekend.
Nice.
So I'm going to do that every Friday. I never really set goals for my stream before, so this is kind of a new thing for me, but it's pretty fun. If we can open up that emote slot, that would be awesome.
Well, and here's one thing that we've had on the channel for a while, and I just keep forgetting to mention it. If you have a topic that you want us to talk about, or somebody that you want to hear or bring on, there's a little S circle in the bottom right corner of the stream. That's a stomped, whatever you call it, app. Click on that, and you can create basically like a user story. I wish indie game business would finish the sentence out. And then, you submit it, people can vote on it, and it's a good way for them to, us to get good feedback on what you want to see and what you want to hear, so we can bring the appropriate people on. Mm-hmm. I've actually reached out to the people from Celeste, and they're extremely busy right now. But I would love to have them on too, because I am in the midst of that game, and it's just absolutely. I haven't broken the switch by throwing it across the room yet, but I've gotten close. But it's like one of those games that it's challenging enough that I know you get that wonderful sense of satisfaction, when you finally do get through a level.
Tell how to be a game dev in Brazil. Yeah, they would have some good advice. I'm sure.
That's very true.
No?
I forgot that we were in Brazil. All right. I think that's it for today.
Yeah. Anybody want to talk about anything else? Because we will sit here and talk. Can you mention one issue the devs had with the BF5, please? As he hadn't heard of this before, if you can recall. Oh, because Div was talking about the Battlefield 5, how after 2 weeks they dropped the price a bunch.
Yeah, but didn't he go back up? And that's like they did with several games. Like Fallout caught some shit for that, but they dropped the price because it was Black Friday.
Black Friday!
The other rule: if a game comes out in early November, wait till Black Friday because it'll go on sale. Alrighty, man. I gotta bounce because
Kids.
I've got to go pick up Mini Me.
Mini Me!
But thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
We'll be back around on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And I'll update the schedule below this weekend with let you know who's coming on when.
Okay, and this will be up on YouTube, and it'll also be in our videos on Twitch. So if you miss anything, just look at the videos on Twitch. They're there. Just come here and click on videos. Bam, they're all up there. All right, bye everybody.
Y'all take care.